Since it is October, the feeling of Halloween seems to take over everything around us. I started out with the idea of working on a video that would expose every false story ever told by Ed and Lorraine Warren, but soon I realized that it would be an impossible task to complete. Because there are far too many of them, I eventually had to stop. Not because I wanted to, but because even my document file could no longer handle the size of the project. Still, that Halloween energy stayed with me, and I decided to look into some of the well-known supernatural cases that BuzzFeed once labeled as unsolved, but that have since been uncovered and explained. And what better way to begin than with the story of one of the most infamous objects in paranormal lore, a doll that was said to be possessed. The story begins with the doll known as Annabelle. Trying to find where and when this story truly began is not simple. Even the official accounts by the Warrens contradict each other. On their own website, one source claims the events began in 1968. Another says the doll was purchased in 1970. And in an old video, Ed Warren himself claimed that the doll had been given to a nurse in 1970, one as a Christmas gift from her mother. So which is true? No one really knows. The contradictions go on endlessly changing with each retelling. There was, however, an article written in 1971 by a journalist named Joel Amardio from the Connecticut Sunday Herald. That report featured the original owner of the doll, who mentioned that she had already owned it for several years before anything strange began. So even if the exact year is uncertain, the most reliable point of reference, we have places the story around 1971. Almost everything else told afterward appears to be a blend of exaggeration and invention by the Warrens themselves. According to Amardio, the Warrens had reached out asking her to cover the story because they wanted publicity. She agreed and joined them to meet the people who owned the doll. One of the owners described an encounter that supposedly proved the doll's power. He said that he picked up the doll, shouted that it was nothing but a toy, and immediately felt a burning pain across his chest. He claimed that when he looked down, he saw 7 bleeding claw marks across his body. His girlfriend and roommate supported his story, describing the strange happenings that followed in their apartment in East Hartford. They said the doll had been a simple decoration given as a gift from a mother to her daughter. It sat on the bed like any ordinary toy. Then small, unsettling things began. They would return home from work to find the doll moved from place to place. Sometimes it would be sitting in the kitchen on the floor or even kneeling on a chair. They first thought someone was playing tricks on them, but none admitted to doing so. A few days before Christmas, the woman came home and found a small chocolate trinket placed on the stereo. None of them knew how it got there. Soon, other strange items appeared in places they should not have been, like a set of keys sitting in a clean ashtray. The mysteries grew until one of the women contacted a friend who was said to be a medium and held a seance. During the session, the medium claimed that the doll was possessed by the spirit of a young girl who had died nearby. Her name was said to be Annabelle Higgins, and she asked to stay because she wanted to be loved. From there, the story transformed. The Warrens began promoting it as proof of demonic forces at work. They spoke about a child spirit supposedly killed near the apartment who they claimed had never existed. No records or reports ever confirmed such a death. They also claimed to have experienced shaking beds, cold air, and whispering voices, but there was never any evidence beyond their words. In the same old video, Ed Warren declared that he had film recordings and eyewitness testimony to prove everything, yet no such proof was ever released. What little footage connected to the case showed nothing convincing. Even paranormal enthusiasts have dismissed it as amateur fakery. Ironically, Ed Warren himself later contradicted his own story in his book, The Demonologist. In it, he wrote that demons are liars and that the doll was never actually possessed. He explained that spirits possess people, not objects. But in the very same book, he described taking the doll home because it was too dangerous to leave behind. He even claimed the doll tried to steer his car off the road. His words canceled themselves out, leaving no real truth behind. As years went on, the tale grew bigger. The Warrens claimed that a man once mocked the doll during a visit to their museum and died in a motorcycle accident shortly after researchers later discovered that the supposed accident could not have happened as described because the highway mentioned was not even open to the public at that time. No record of any such crash or victim was ever found. Another story told of a priest who threw the doll and later crashed his car yet again. There was no evidence of such an event. In the end, the myth of Annabelle became a product of storytelling rather than reality. Even modern investigators who have touched or handled the doll remain unharmed. The only real danger seems to be believing every tale told about it. With that mystery set aside, we move to another case that once shocked the medical world. The strange and tragic story of a woman later called the Toxic Lady in February 1994. 31-year-old Gloria Ramirez was rushed to Riverside General Hospital in California. She suffered from late-stage cervical cancer and was experiencing severe nausea and difficulty breathing. Doctors tried to stabilize her, but what happened next was unlike anything they had seen. When she arrived, she was confused. Her heart rate was extremely high and her breathing was irregular. As the medical team treated her, they noticed her body appeared covered in an oily sheen, and a strange, sweet, garlicky odor came from her mouth. A nurse drew her blood and said that it smelled strongly of ammonia. Inside the vial, she noticed yellow-brown crystals forming. Moments later, she felt a burning sensation on her face and collapsed. Soon other staff members began to feel sick within minutes, multiple hospital workers fainted or experienced paralysis and the emergency room had to be evacuated. Only a few remained behind to continue treatment. But Gloria Ramirez passed away shortly after. In just half an hour, 23 people became ill and 5 were hospitalized. At first, officials claimed it was a case of mass hysteria, suggesting that fear had spread among the mostly female staff. But those who fell ill disagreed strongly. One of the doctors proved through medical tests that she had suffered real physical damage, including liver and bone complications. Her condition could not be explained by stress or imagination. A new investigation was launched by the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. After studying samples and reports, they proposed a scientific explanation. They believed Gloria had been using a substance called dimethyl sulfoxide, or DMSO, as a home remedy for pain caused by her cancer treatment. The substance is oily, colorless, and known to leave a garlic-like smell when absorbed through the skin. It was not a medicine approved for such use, but some people used it for joint pain or inflammation. According to the researchers, when oxygen was administered during her treatment, it could have combined with the DMSO in her system to form another compound called dimethyl sulfone. This compound can crystallize at room temperature, which matched the strange crystals seen in her blood. Then, when doctors used the defibrillator, electric energy might have converted that substance into dimethyl sulfate, a highly toxic gas once used as a weapon during World War I exposure. To even small amounts can cause severe damage to the lungs, brain, and liver. The symptoms experienced by the hospital staff matched those caused by dimethyl sulfate exposure. It explained the fainting, the paralysis, and the liver injury. In other words, by trying to save Gloria Ramirez, doctors may have accidentally triggered a rare chemical reaction that turned her body into a temporary source of poison gas. Her family insisted she never used DMSO, but traces of it were found in her system, supporting the theory. This case remains one of the most unusual medical mysteries ever recorded. From the Toxic Lady, we turn to another event that captured worldwide attention. A night when lights filled the Arizona sky, and thousands of people believed they had witnessed something beyond this world. In March 1997, residents across Phoenix reported seeing a formation of bright lights moving slowly and silently through the sky. Many described a massive V-shaped craft that seemed to block out the stars as it passed overhead. Some said it was close enough to feel, others claimed it hovered far above the city. Videos captured glowing orbs arranged in patterns that fueled talk of alien visitation. But further investigation revealed that 2 separate events had occurred that night. The first was around 8:30 in the evening when a formation of aircraft was seen moving across the state. A young man named Mitch Stanley observed it through his telescope and could clearly see that each light was actually an airplane flying in formation. He tried to inform city officials and UFO researchers, but few wanted to listen. Later that night, around 10 o'clock, a second display of lights appeared near the city and slowly descended behind the mountains. This second event was later identified as military flares dropped during a training exercise by the Air National Guard. The flares created the illusion of a massive craft hovering over the city. When the two incidents were reported together, the stories became mixed, and many believed they were seeing one continuous event. Despite the explanations, many witnesses remained convinced they had seen something otherworldly. But when the videos are studied carefully, the lights move and fade exactly as flares do. No solid craft can be seen. The formation of planes explains the earlier reports. The combination of both events created one of the most famous UFO stories in American history. And so another so-called unsolved mystery loses its supernatural edge once the evidence is laid out. From haunted dolls to chemical tragedies, to strange lights in the sky, these stories remind us how myths grow when fear and imagination fill the gaps left by missing facts. Every Halloween brings new tales of ghosts and shadows, but behind most of them lies something far more human. Mistakes, misunderstandings, and sometimes deliberate inventions meant to entertain or mislead. In the end, the truth may not always be as exciting as fiction, but it is always worth uncovering.